Good morning and happy and blessed Saturday to each and every one of you. We are so thankful that you are joining us today. I want to say that this week has been a wonderful week, a crazy week, but guess what? It's still a new week that we have never had before. So I am thankful for that. I want to welcome you all again to the autopsy of her healing, evolving, resiliency. I am Iris Denise Holmes Owens, and on the line with me is my beautiful co host and my sister. Good morning, honey bunny.
Good morning, honey bunny. Stephanie Deani Green. Good
Good.
morning, everybody.
And we have a very special guest with us today. And so today we have Nikki Gray. Good morning, love.
Good morning. Good morning, all.
Good morning, Nikki.
Good
so
Thank
morning.
you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
so
Oh,
we
you're welcome.
we are excited today. We're gonna jump in. I'm gonna go ahead and uh, give you an intro to Nikki, and then Nikki's gonna introduce her topic, and we're gonna jump in, and we're gonna have a great conversation and great moments and sharing of wisdom as we always do. So just want to let you know. So Nikki is a spoken word artist. She's a singer, songwriter, and actress. She's just a multifaceted artist. So that's what artists are. See, that's the thing. When people say I'm an artist, but they like, yeah, I do this one thing. See, it's just like being an entrepreneur. You have to be multifaceted. Just a little
Exactly.
drop a nugget. Just a drop a nugget.
Exactly. And
And
when you're multifaceted, that means that you're a diamond, because that's what diamonds are.
there you go. So, through her
That's right.
passion for spoken words, she uses her talents as a voice for activism and advocacy. Many of her pieces speak to various social issues, including racism, sexism, mental illness, domestic violence, and human trafficking. Nikki has been a member of the Art AMARC. Is AMARC? Am I saying that right? AMARC?
Artemonk.
Audemars, thank you, Audemars and Java Monkey Slam teams in Atlanta, and has performed and competed on multiple stages, such as the National Poetry Slam, Write Club Atlanta, the Decatur Book Festival, and the Augusta Arts Festival. Her poetry has also been featured in two theatrical productions, Rimshot and The 11th Hour by playwright Angela Carcel with the positive arts movement. In 2016, Nikki published her first chapbook, Kaleidoscope, and is currently working on her second, which is Out of Focus. So again, we want to welcome Nikki Gray. We're so happy to have you. And so we're going to jump right in. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we give you the floor.
Good morning, all. Thank you. Thank you both for having me here today. I'm so excited about being on the show
Thank
and
you.
talking about the one thing that I guess this all kind of centers around communication.
Absolutely.
And the importance of communication in relationships, friendships, just one on one with other people, and just how important that is. Yeah.
Correct. Because
Yeah,
everything in life is relational.
This is
exactly.
extremely
Everything focuses
And
around
honest
relationship.
communication. Honest
exactly.
communication. That I think people. I do think people communicate, but what I do find is it's not honest communication. People tend to
Agreed.
tell you what they think you want to hear, or only what they want to tell you, and it's bits and pieces. I always say that clear talks make to a clear understanding. And people want to talk in circles, and you're trying to like figure it out. But communication, clear communication, and honest communication is the key to all relationships.
So Nikki, with that being said, let can we can I get I think I want to start with your advocacy and your activism
Hmm.
and communication. And so can you start there for us or if that's a good place for you to start?
Absolutely. Um, so it's funny for me when I think about communication, in that for the longest time, just personally, I was not a very communicative person.
Mm-hmm.
I have a tendency to stuff emotions and and stuff how I'm feeling about things, because for whatever reason, I had worked it out in my head that what I had to say wasn't important.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
and that nobody wanted to hear me, and it's best to just, be quiet, sit in the
Mhm.
corner,
Mhm.
speak only when you are spoken to, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And when you're kind of raised with that, and not in a bad way, but
Right.
the old saying,
Right.
children are to be seen, not heard.
Correct.
So you're supposed to be quiet. You're not supposed to share how you feel about a situation. And I took all of that and just blew it up. And so for the longest time, I didn't have a voice,
Mm.
and chose to quiet my voice for others, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then I got into poetry, because
Mhm.
I love literature and I love words and the power of words,
Yes.
which ties perfectly with communication.
Correct.
And so getting into poetry helped me to be able to like let go of some of those things that, even if I couldn't say it vocally, I could say it on paper, and I
Mhm.
could say the things that, I couldn't share before. And so um, it used to be, you start off in poetry and it's all the fluff stuff,
Yes. Mhm.
rainbows and butterflies and love is amazing, or
Yes.
even better, the dark stuff like my heart is broken. I don't know when I'll ever feel like I'll see the sun again, all the
Right.
dramatic stuff.
Yes.
Um, but I came across an open mic and was listening to some Atlanta poets, and heard pieces that touched on things that I didn't know you could write poetry about, you
Mm.
know. Um,
Mhm.
and so they would touch on depression, and they would touch on mental health, and they would touch um, on rape and family, situations, abuse, and things like that. And it was like, oh my gosh, wow. Um, and for me, having gone through quite a number of things in my life, and having experienced rape, and having experienced, and still experiencing dealing with mental health, and depression, it was like an outlet.
Mhm.
And I realized that there are a lot of us that are a lot more quiet than what we should be.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and
Yes.
particularly, personal opinion, I feel like within the African American community, especially within our family dynamics, we keep
Absolutely.
things inside that circle, right?
Yes.
So what happens in the family stays in the
Stays in the
family.
family, no matter
And
how
you
bad it is.
right, you don't talk about that. You don't talk
Right.
about the uncle that has a drinking disorder. You don't talk about the parents that are having issues with parenting. We just don't talk about those things.
Right.
And um, in finding this outlet for myself to talk about the things that I'm not supposed to talk about, I wanted to try to give voice to others
Right.
that are similarly going through situations like that,
Right.
and found a place in that. I would do pieces that for the most part resonated with where I was and what I was going through. And then I would share them and then have someone come up and go, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing."
Right.
And then share their own backstory. And it was
Mhm.
like, okay, that's what this can do.
Right.
You know, it opens the
Mhm.
playing field to say, you don't have to be quiet about this. You can talk about this and share about this and find healing in that. And that's the thing. For me personally, I feel like bringing those things that we don't talk about to light is where we can find healing.
Right. Because I always say, and this is again, this is the reason why this whole podcast came to be. Steph and I have been friends for over, well, 27 years, to be exact. Like she said, she met Rhonda when he was 1. So 27 years, so 26 years, however you want to look at it. And we started realizing that in all the years of talking and the things that we thought we knew about each other, but later on learned about each other, and then was like, I never knew that happened to you. And then like feeling like, oh my God, that happened to me, or something of the same sort of trauma happened to me. And we realized that that is where we stay stuck, because as you just said, we're not taught to talk about trauma. We're not taught to talk about things or people in our lives who have hurt us, who have done things to us that they had no business even doing. They had no business in our presence, period. But that sort of thing happens, and of course, it's not just the African American community, but because we're African American, that's the only community we can really talk about, because we know us.
Exactly.
We know us. We know us. But we also do realize that culturally, it is family secrets is a death killer. It is a game.
The secrets will kill you.
Yeah, secrets will kill you, because the secrets are normally not things that are of your benefit in any way, shape, or form. And so it's so interesting, when you read about, statistics that not even like out of 10 girls, 9 will probably be sexually molested in their life at some point in some time. And probably that's about 5 for every male, which is, that's a whole nother topic, because it's kind of ignored. Because we think that it's only a male on male when it comes to male, sexual molestation. But there are a lot of women out here who are molesting young boys and young men.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't get talked about. And again, that's a whole nother topic, because as a man, I mean, the laws even say, hey, a woman can't rape a man. That's not true.
Let me say this very quickly. My niece called me probably like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And the number didn't come, like, how you have everybody contacting your phone. It didn't come through like a contact. But I said, someone told me pick the phone up. When I picked the phone up, it was my niece. And I'm like, okay, I need you to help me do something, whatever. So I'm like, well, what happened to your phone? Oh, that's a whole long story. Then she said, well, I'll tell you. And basically, her best friend, they had been best friends for a while. Me personally, was something about the young lady I didn't care for. But she had found out that this woman had been molesting her son. And they used to live together with their children when the children was young. My great nephew, my niece's, son, he is, I think he's like 30, now. But he was like, oh, that was her special boy. She was always buying him sneakers and all this kind of stuff. So she's trying to like, when was this happening? And then she realized that her son had become oversexed at a very young age. And the sad part, how she found out, was his girlfriend sent her the text that this woman sent him, because she was still dealing with him. But this is on something that started when he was a young boy.
Wow.
Exactly. And I'm like, she's a pedophile.
Yes, she is. I mean?
She's a pedophile. And it had just altered his mind.
And she should be in jail.
Yes, she should be in jail. I think the statute of limitation, and my niece, like, I wanted to take that to the street. That's how she didn't mess up. And I trusted her. They were both single moms. At one point, they lived together with their children, so they helped each. She said she never in a million years would have thought that. And because I think she had some with the girlfriend. So the girl was like, oh, you think this woman is your friend? Let me show you what she sent your son.
Well, this is the problem. If you stick to, as we're talking about communication, we don't communicate truth. As you said in the beginning, we communicate, but we
Mhm.
don't communicate truth, or
Exactly.
we are stifled when
Mhm.
we communicate truth. Like
Mhm.
this is my truth. This is my reality.
Mhm.
This is not me just dreaming up stuff. This is not me making up stuff. And even if you think a young person or any person is coming up with something so out of sorts, and you know that they've not had that kind of exposure, you have to then ask yourself, where is this coming from?
Mhm. Mhm.
But we typically don't do that. So
Especially when it comes to young men, though, because you would think when young men, when they're out, like, oh, they're just being a boy, that's how men are, they're lustful or whatever. No,
no,
it's like the same thing with they're getting that from somewhere. You know
right.
what I mean? Everybody think it's cute. I know a couple of guys, oh, I was having sex with my babysitter. She was 16, I'm 10, I'm 11, 11 years old. That was great. No, that wasn't great. She is a pedophile.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be having sex with your babysitter. You know what I mean? And I know women that have sons that feel this, oh, boys will be boys. What is that supposed to
No,
mean? You
no,
know what I mean? It's nothing good about that. Nothing
no,
healthy about that at all.
no.
Because that does. I have, I have 6 brothers. And my one brother, he would just fall so deeply in love, you know what I mean? And when he lost his virginity, he was 14 to a woman who was 18 years old. My mother almost killed that woman.
Yeah.
And my brother really was never the same after that. It was really because
Right.
it affects boys just as much as it affects girls. You
Nikki,
know,
I want to touch on something you said earlier, because um I am 56 years old, and of course it wasn't probably until the last, like, maybe 2000, like the last 2 years, that I started to come into a realization about some things about my own trauma in my life and how I had communicated
Mhm.
throughout life, because I always considered myself, all my friends know I'm the Mac mama of intimacy. I am the girl, right? Look, don't you can't throw me off my game. You can't tell me about nothing. Like, I'm gonna flip your world. I'm gonna look, smack it down, rub it. Oh yeah, that's me, right? But in all of that, as I said, 2 years ago, I realized that that was me living in my trauma all those years.
Mhm.
That the way I chose to communicate with men came across in my sexuality, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's where we get stuck sometimes. Again, we get stuck because we're not taught to communicate hurt and pain. So I want you to share right there, if you would like, what do what's your thoughts about that?
Um, I definitely agree. I know for me personally, it was always followed with the thought of I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want to burden others with my issues.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to make sure that I'm not, like overwhelming friends or family or anything like that, I would keep a lot of that stuff to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I didn't want to, like, okay, this is kind of heavy and I don't know how they'll handle that. And, you know, um, people, it's weird because, like, if you're going through something,
Mm-hmm.
and you share, okay, this is what happened, some people will completely shut down because they don't know how to,
Oh
they
yes.
don't, they don't know what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
Like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? How am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to talk to you?
How am I
Um,
supposed to handle that? You know?
right. And so it leaves you kind of feeling, especially as the person who has just shared this bombshell,
Right.
um, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't share that.
Mhm.
Maybe I should hold that kind of stuff back.
Mhm.
And then you have others that you will talk to that dive right in and are like, okay, well, then you need to do this and this needs to happen and you should. And it's like, okay, wait. Actually, what I really wanted in this moment was just to share and have you listen. But we don't say that. And
Right.
so then you have this dynamic of, okay, now I'm being given advice on how to handle this and do this and do
Right.
this and do this. And
Unsolicited advice, often,
right,
like, well, I
unsolicited.
just want you to hear me.
And it still leaves you in that place of feeling like I'm not heard.
Right.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
and I personally have identified that within myself a lot of feeling like I'm not heard, people are not hearing me. But it was because I was not sharing in a way that led them to be able to understand what it was that I wanted when I needed to share.
Mm-hmm.
And then also identifying that you don't share with everybody,
Yes.
you know,
Right. Because
that there
everybody
are
can't handle your truth.
exactly.
Exactly. And
And
then some people like to take your truth and use it against you. Like, like I shared this with you. I already know about it. You don't have to throw it back in my face. You know what I mean? That
Right.
wasn't the purpose of that.
Right. But I also think we're also not taught that the power of being able to disclose, because it's disclosure. When we open up and share, it's disclosure, right?
Exactly.
And of course, the way people react to our disclosure, then, like you just said, Nikki, makes you say, "Ooh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that," right? Or I regret even telling you that, because the reaction and then what they do with your disclosure
Mhm.
and your trauma and your pain makes you go, I'm never going to tell another person that again, or I'm not going to
Exactly.
tell anyone anything. I don't care what's happening. I'm just going to sit here and suffer. And so,
Mhm.
like, Nikki, you advocate for all the things that are secrets, right? Rape, domestic violence, mental illness. You are on the front line for everything that people keep trying to keep it behind the veil.
Mhm.
I'm a mental health coach, and or a mental health counselor. I've done that for many years in my life with children and adults. And so I know where you're coming from with that. But I think it's also always interesting, because many times those of us who are in or on the front line, we forget to deal with our own trauma first.
Which is true.
We are talking,
Absolutely.
we are talking to people, and we're encouraging them, and we're like, you can do this. And it's not, but yet we come home and we're looking in the mirror going, now why'd you let that happen?
Yeah, because you're not dealing with the man in the mirror.
Mhm.
And you got to. It's so important. But I remember when I was raped, and the one of the things my mother told me, she's like, "Oh, don't tell nobody." You know what I mean? And I was like, "Really? Like, how is that gonna help me?" And I never forget the female police officer that helped me. She says to me, she said, "Whenever you get that feeling that you need to talk about this, she said, even if you're in the grocery line, tell the cashier, tell somebody, you got to let it out." And she was absolutely correct. And the sad part about it was, my biological mother's husband, because it happened at her house, well, in her building, the guy dragged me to the roof. But he already ran. The next day was Memorial Day, and they were having a cookout. He told everybody at the cookout, you know. And exactly. But I mean, I wasn't. I felt away, but I never was ashamed, because I knew that it wasn't my fault. But I know the best thing that you could do for yourself is talk about it, whatever it may be. Just like now with our podcast, I was in Savannah. Ours came down and saw me in Savannah, and they had a little party for me, at my aunt's house. And one of my cousins was saying, like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast and I know what you were talking about. Like, you shouldn't be talking about that." Like, it's basically not, I could talk about whatever I want to talk about. You
Right.
know what I mean? And then, my daughter kind of like chimed in, oh yeah, just running your mouth. It's not your business. And I felt a ways for a minute, then I'm like, well, this is me and my girlfriend's podcast. And we want to share. When your name is attached to something, you can share it. But I did feel a way, but then it's again a way of somebody silencing you because you feel a way, And I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Dictate whichever way you will.
And it's not only them feeling away, it is because you know what? That's the problem with non-communication and family secrets. Because trust me, everybody before you, they know the secret.
They do.
They know.
They do know the secret.
They know what happened. They know the stories. They know the
times.
They know the names. They know it. And sometimes
just telling me,
sometimes they were victims as well. But so can we stay right there for a minute? What is that about? That we know in our family, we have predators, we have rapists, we have liars, we have thieves, we have murderers, we have con artists, and yet we continue to go, hey, cousin Joe, I know you are Hester the molester, but hey, how you doing? Yeah, let me give you that hug. Let me kiss you on your cheek. I'm gonna tell you right now. I taught my kids from early in life. If you don't want to hug somebody, you don't want them to hug you, you don't want to kiss them, you don't want them to kiss you, you have every right to, when they greet you, to say, hi, it's good to see you, and not accept their hug or not accept their embrace. Taught my daughter from the time she was young enough to have sense. You don't sit on any man's lap.
That's right.
If it's not your father or your brother, you don't belong on any man's lap or in any man's arms.
That's right.
And so, Nikki, from your perspective, because you're a little bit younger than us, but the truth is, I don't think that the secret part and the lack of healing and communication in families changes. So I'm going to ask from your perspective, how do you see that?
I would say absolutely. I would say it does not change, or I have not seen that change for myself. I very much grew up with the understanding that there are things that happen within the family that the family is allowed to know, but no one else is allowed to know. And even then, you don't speak about it. Knowing one thing, but you still don't speak about those things. And it was just, it's kind of the, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So what happens within the family stays in the family, because it becomes family business, and you don't air family business. You keep all that kind of stuff quiet, and you deal with it internally, but it's never really dealt with. It's more like put underneath the
rug.
Is it the rug, or is it actually the house?
It could be the house.
Hide it in the closet. That's how we deal with those things, under the rug or in the closet. And this is how you have really messed up rugs and lots of skeletons in closets. And it's I don't know if it's because there's a fear of, part of me feels like it's a fear of judgment. The other part is a fear of it being used against you. And so there are a lot of fears that stop people from dealing with the things that have happened within families and secrets, and it doesn't even have to be like big stuff. I started a book earlier this month that is called goodness gracious, now I can't remember it. It's What My Mother and I Don't Talk About. And
girls, come on in the room. Come on
That's big.
in the room. Come in the room, Nikki Gray. Come in the room. Go ahead.
That is big.
It is big. It is big. It's just there. the things that you don't communicate with people that are close to you. Um, I have a really great relationship with my mom now. I didn't when I was younger.
Mm,
When I was younger, I felt like, "Oh, I can't talk to you. You don't understand where I'm coming from. We're
mm-hmm,
not on the same page." So we didn't talk about things. Um, and so the book is full of essays where different writers are sharing, their family relationships and things that may or may
mm,
not have happened
mm-hmm,
within those dynamics, and just realizing that we don't talk about those things. I realized, for instance, that outside of knowing that my mother is my mother, I didn't really know a whole bunch about her life.
mm,
Like, what was your life like, you
mm-hmm,
know
Mhm.
um and it was later that I came to start discussing that when I became an adult, and finding out that my mom went to school still segregated because she was in Mississippi,
mm,
and Mississippi is a little bit slower to catch
Mhm.
up with
right,
the
A
right,
little
rest of
backward now.
right,
right
right.
the rest of the country. Um, so she went to school still segregated. She remembers when they went ahead and did integration. And I'm like,
Mm.
and there's that part of you that goes, oh no, that's history books. That's,
No,
hundreds
it's
of
the
years
family.
ago.
The history
And
is
it
sitting right
wasn't.
there. You live with the history
Exactly.
right there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. And Nikki, can I ask you, how old is your mom?
68.
Okay.
Wow.
She's still young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
was crazy just trying to even finding out, like, who mom was, what were the things that you were interested in, and it's weird because you think, well, that's super, like, normal, but
Mm,
you don't talk about it.
right. Right.
We don't talk to our kids about the things that we enjoy and love, and they don't know your backstory outside of your mom.
Right.
Exactly.
Mom.
Right. Right.
And
That's
I
why
think that's
there's those
important
crazy
though.
questions where someone goes, "Oh my gosh, did you have color TV when you were a kid?" I'm not that old. Yes, I had color TV. Oh my gosh. We didn't have an outhouse. There was, running toilets. I mean, come on.
Right.
It's crazy because you just kind of take those things for granted. So I
Mhm.
really love the way that the book is set up, because in some instances, obviously, it's discussions about traumas and things that are happening.
Yes.
Um, I don't remember sharing with my mother when I was younger, or even in, my early 20s, struggling with um, and struggling with suicidal ideation, um,
Hmm.
and with cutting. Those were things that I didn't talk to my mom. You know, we didn't talk about those things, and
Hmm.
um, just reading that book really helped me see. Like, for myself, I've gotten to a place where I've decided that
What, wait, hold on. That, whatever that, I don't know what that noise, that
I think
background
that's
noise
my
is.
dog.
It's my dog sneezing.
Oh, okay. So it's hard to hear
Ashley.
Nikki. So maybe mute for a
So
minute
Danny, can
while,
you take Dashy upstairs? Thank you. Thank
okay,
you,
thank you.
Fran.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, Nick.
No, it's cool.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Dashy got allergies.
I
Yes.
understand, Dashie.
And as we
um,
always say, this is live TV.
that's right. You're getting it as it
And
happens.
literally, he's been sitting under my feet, and then all of a sudden he started sneezing. And good,
Oh,
because Savannah just walked in, so she could take him upstairs.
okay. Go ahead, Nick.
Um,
I'm sorry.
no, you're just perfectly good. But just realizing that those weren't things that I talked about, and in fact, for the longest time, I didn't talk to a lot of people about that. Most of my friends had no idea that I was struggling like that, or was suicidal, or was cutting, or anything like that, because there's a shame.
Mhm.
attached to it.
Mhm.
And with shame, you don't want to talk about that because there's a judgment from that shame that says you should know better, you should do better, you should be better. And because you're not, um, the fear says people are going to judge you.
Mhm.
And so for me, I stayed quiet and I didn't talk about, you know, what I was struggling with or how I was feeling or um, just being open and vulnerable in that way. And
Mhm.
so I have gotten to a place now where I try to make sure that I'm being as open and communicative as possible. Um,
Because that
going,
helps you.
it does, it does.
Because I was definitely attempted suicide several times in my life, and as a kid, and trying to, just it's the pain that makes you not want to be there. And I don't think it was like shame, like I guess if you're thinking about, because the thing, if you feel that you want to commit suicide, you're not going to tell anybody because you don't want anybody to stop you, on top of all that. But I was, it was really quite interesting, and it had a lot to do with all the histories of my family. I was adopted, which that's still like a big secret, but I don't know why. It's funny because I'm 57 now, but 2 years ago when I turned 55, and I was talking to one of my cousins, I was in Savannah, and I just said, because I was adopted. And she says to me, I never knew that you were adopted. Someone just told me. So it's so funny just to hear that people are still talking about that. Where, mind you, I've been part of this family since I'm 3 months old, and now I am 55. So this
Wow.
is still exactly. So like things don't change, and it's my story to tell. I remember when I was, I own a jewelry company, and I cannot go to Savannah and don't bring my jewelry. And my cousin called me. She was at mom's house. Bring your jewelry over. When my friends are over, they want some jewelry, whatever. And I go over there, and the lady started saying, "Oh my God, you remind me so much of your aunt." And I knew which aunt she was speaking of. And then my cousin chimes in and says, "Oh, but you should see her real mother." Exactly. Now that's not your place because it's my story to tell. It's not for you to tell. But that tells me something about you, also. And I'm the type of I could deal with you, but when you show me who you are, I do believe you. Because especially when you say, well, I don't see you tell people. I tell people what I choose to tell them and whom I choose to tell them. That's not your job to tell people my story. If I want people to know that I'm adopted, then I do. And I do have this thing where, like, my niece, when I was speaking up with her son, and she was like, Auntie, I just love you, and I don't talk about you being adopted. Like, she doesn't want, you know what I mean? So I won't, because she feels that way. You know what I mean? Not that she just said, like, because she knows I'm very open about it. But my husband loves you. You're his aunt. She went through all this things. And I do have people in my family that feel like that. But that's their own issue. I mean, if it needs to come up, it needs to come. I find that mostly from my nieces. They just like, no, you're not adopted. You're my aunt. You know what I mean? It says doesn't mean I'm less your aunt. So it comes from a loving place. But yeah, but people want to still stifle your voice and make you feel a certain kind of way and all these kind of things. And only when you're able to share are you able to heal.
This is true.
Yep.
Because it's painful when you're just holding all those things into yourself. The cutting, trying to commit suicide, all these things that come along with that, you know, and some people don't realize, and you're all out there by yourself. And there's somebody that has had those same situations.
Hmm.
Reason we do this podcast, that they say, like, I'm not the only one. Because some people feel they're the only one. They live in this lonely place all by themselves. When, baby girl, baby boy, you're not the only one. There's other people out there that understands where you're coming from and why you feel the way you do. And they can help you, especially if they already crossed that bridge. They say, you know what? If I can help you cross this bridge, it's beautiful here on the other side. And you could have this beautiful life. And I do, like, when I look at my kids, I was like, imagine if I would have followed through with all those things, of attempted suicide, I would have missed all of this,
Mm.
So, and it's nice to be able to be there to help somebody. So that's a beautiful thing that you do, Nikki. A really, really beautiful thing.
I try to stay in that place, because I think when it comes to communication, it's about being open, but it's also about being vulnerable. And that place of vulnerability
Mhm.
is scary to a lot of people. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be that kind of open and share yourself in that kind of way where there's nothing between you and the other person. And we hold on to those walls
Mhm.
as protection, absolutely. And definitely don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be harmed. But I think even in being vulnerable like that and sharing our stories with one another, like you said, it helps others believe and remember, because it's a thing of remembering. We know ultimately there are billions of people on this planet. I can't possibly
Be the
be the
only
only
one.
person who has gone through this.
Right.
We know this up here,
Yes.
but knowing it here in our hearts is a totally different thing. And it
Mhm.
feels like in those situations that we are completely alone and no one understands and no one's been here. And um, I think in being open and vulnerable like that, there's this connection that can happen. And there's growth, obviously, there's healing, but there's also encouragement.
Yes,
Because the
absolutely.
encouraging thing of finding out I'm not the only person who thought this is bolstering. And it helps
Yes.
you to feel like, okay, you know what? I can do this. I
Mhm.
can get through this. I can handle this. I can make it through this. I can be better. Um, and for me, that's why I feel like there's such power in being able to share our stories with one another. It's an amazing thing for me to read this
Yes.
book about the things we don't talk about with our mothers,
Right.
and for me to even to go, when was the last time mom and I had a heart to talk? You
Mm.
know, when was the
Mhm.
last time we talked and just shared? And
Right.
I just sit there and listen to mom talk about her sisters and growing up on a farm and not cut it off and be like, okay, yeah, next, whatever, mom.
Enough of
No,
that.
yeah. It's connection though. It's that connection of being able to share stories. And though I don't know what it's like to grow up on a farm, um, it's an opportunity for me to be able to get a better picture of my mother, and what her life was like.
Right.
And then even with me, making sure that I'm sharing with my own children,
Right.
oh, okay, let me share where I've been and what I've gone through. And
Right.
with my friends and family, just sharing and being open and being like, okay, this is where I am.
Right.
And
Right.
finding out, oh, you're not the only one that's been
Right.
going through this. I
Right.
have too, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And that kind of camaraderie and companionship helps to make life not so lonely.
Yep. Yep. And
And
I also
especially,
think
Okay.
when you have children, I think when you have had trauma in your life or things have happened to you that you had no control over, you couldn't stop it, you couldn't fix it, there was nothing you could do. When you have children, you then become, I don't even know the word for that. But you realize that I don't want this thing or anything of that sort to
That's
happen to
right.
my children
You
or
become an
children
advocate for your children.
or children that I love or children that I care
Exactly.
about or children.
Mhm.
You just like, okay, not on my
Mhm.
watch. I think that's
Exactly.
what it is. You become the watchdog and you're like, I'm not going to allow that to happen. Now, does that mean it's not going to happen? No.
No.
But I feel like it just makes us more, you have a more heightened sense of
Oh,
awareness.
absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
because it's like intuition, and as people call it, the sixth sense and all these things. When you meet a person and you meet this person, you don't know anything about this person, you don't know their name, you don't know anything about them, but that thing that happens in your gut where you go,
Yep,
I
it's
don't
real.
know what it is about you, but something about you makes me go, guards up, guards
Exactly.
up, right? And so, and that's something also we don't do, again, communicating,
It's
because
true.
if we tell someone, and it could be my best friend's new boyfriend. Now, my best friend has 5 kids, 5 female children, all under the age of 10, or just all under the age of whatever they are. They're not able
Exactly.
to fend for themselves. And you're so smitten with this person, though, and you're like, I like him, I love him, and so now we're a new family.
Yeah.
But you're over here looking at the kids whose personalities, who used to be so bold and bubbly and, hey, Auntie Iris, and now all of a sudden they're like, hey. And yet mom is like, oh, them kids will be okay. No, no, no. Something has shifted in this whole dynamic, in this whole atmosphere. And we tend to ignore those things, but we don't say anything. Or if we say something, then what happens? The person cuts us off.
Exactly.
Because
Yep.
you're so caught up in this thing that you have going on over here. And I hate to say it, but the one thing that I have realized, and that's because I have been married to a master manipulator, is that the person or people who are master manipulators of whatever kind they are, those are the people who come in like a ray of sunshine in your life. Like they come bust it. They just change your whole
landscape. Everything's different.
You'll be like, hey, I can't make it without them. I don't know what to do. Oh my God. And so you're so distracted. You're missing, like the red flags are going, hello, message over here, look, over here. Okay. Did you see? And you miss it because we get caught and we forget to pay attention to that inner communication with ourselves. I guess maybe that's probably where we should start, the communication with ourselves and listening to that inner voice, right? And not necessarily the drunk monkey voice, because there's also the drunk monkey voice.
Exactly. But what about that voice that you see? I never forget, I was working at Frederick Furriers when I was 19. I had taken a semester off because I had to pay for myself through college. I needed to make some more money. And I was working at Frederick Furriers, and I was sitting in my car. I got there early, and this girl walked by me. And I was like, oh, I don't like her. It's just something. And then I was like, you can't say that. I was like thinking to myself, you're not God. You cannot judge people, And so, and she was like 10 years older than me, I think. No, I was 19. She was like 27. Anyway, long story short, we were the new girls. And she was the manager of the boutique they had there. I was a hostess. And then we ended up going to lunch. And from there, we became like friends. And at the time, I was engaged to a guy who was like 9 years older than me. So like the three of us would hang out. Next thing I know, they're having an affair.
Oh,
yes, girl. It was like all the things that I saw in this woman. It was real. So I really try, like, I guess I try to feel like I'm not judging you, but I see you. Now when I see that, and it's like that first thing, because what happens is, the first thing you feel is usually the right thing, which I've learned through my 57 years on this earth. But then when you start engaging with these people, like, oh, no, they're not really like what I thought when I first saw them. Yeah, they really are. You know what I mean? That's what I have definitely. Yeah, they really are. Because it's just, I mean, especially when you feel like a certain disdain or something, like that. It's just like, oh, I think they think they stuck up, or maybe like you meet a guy, he's full of himself. You realize he's really a nice guy. He's not really full of himself, But when you feel like, look at somebody like it's something that you just don't like, that's a strong words. And whatever that energy was that was passing my car that day, I did not like that woman. And hey, a year later, I found out why.
Goodness, goodness.
Yeah. So it's real that had those feelings, that intuition, and you follow it. Like when I got raped, it started in an elevator, and literally, I realized I'm in an elevator with all these people, and I don't see anybody. Everybody's getting on, or whatever. And I was going to my biological mother's house up in Harlem, and sure enough, when the hairs on my neck, literally stood up. And that's when I realized the guy was behind me. And then he grabbed me and put the gun on me and dragged me to the roof. But I felt that energy before I even realized. I saw the same person get on the elevator, but to realize that all the other people that got on the elevator, he didn't get off and realize, oh, somebody's still on the elevator. The hairs on my neck stood up. All that stuff is real. You feeling somebody come around you, it's a real thing. You got to pay attention to it. And we don't. Not like we should anyway.
Yeah, it's the sixth sense is a real thing, and we do sometimes ignore it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so I guess sometimes I feel like there are all these labels, right? Interesting that the labels are normally on all the negative things in life. Have you all ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that? I'm serious.
I agree with you on that.
Those things are
even when they try to take the labels and try to make them positive, it's like it doesn't work. Like I'm like, no, when I got my face beat. Why your face gotta be beat? Why are we using that word when you could putting on makeup? You know what I'm saying? Or okay, now older men have been dating young women forever. Oh, he's a Mac daddy, he's daddy. Now women do, she's a cougar. Why they gotta be cougars?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why does it always goes to that? You know what I mean? I don't like that.
Well,
I don't like that.
Well, it's the way in which, again, it's the way in which we communicate. And it's funny that you just talked about judgment. And we throw that word around very, I think, loosely these days in terms of,
I agree with you.
Because it's like, everyone is like, don't judge people. Like you that's wrong. And I kind of remind people, without judgment, where would we be? You cannot live in a world without saying there's no judgment. I
don't agree with you. Because that's what it comes down to.
If you're a Christian, or if you believe in God, there is judgment in everything. We are created in judgment. You can't remove the things that are how we came to be and then take it away and think that's going to make it better to communicate. And I think at times we think that when we remove these certain words or behaviors, it supposedly makes life better. And what I find is that it causes people to sometimes retreat more, because
I agree with you.
Whereas where we grew up, even though I don't agree with all the ways, like, as you said earlier, Nikki, like old school, where children were made to be seen, not heard, which means we did not have a voice, right? And even in talking about the dynamics between you and your mom. So I'm an only child. There's 20 years difference between my mother and I, right? And she always taught me to be bold, to be outspoken. She allowed me to be outspoken. She allowed me to speak my mind. Even when I was in trouble, I was always still allowed to state my case. However, now, over the last few years, I realized that my mom now tries to take my voice. Like, she don't want to, it's like, don't argue with me. You're being disrespectful. And I'm like, lady, I'm grown. I'm not 10. I'm not 7. I'm not 10. I'm not a kid. I have an opinion. My opinion is my right to have, as is your opinion, your right to have. But you taught me to speak up for myself. But I can do that with everyone else in the world except you. And I think sometimes we do that with the people who we love and who we're closest with. Because I know I get reminded all the time, I'm the mother. Okay, check, but I'm a mother too.
Mhm. And a grandmother.
And a grandmother, right? And so, yes, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm simply saying I don't agree with, or the way you see it, or the way it was for you when you were coming through this part of your life, it is not that way for me. And I think we have to be mindful when we are communicating with people. I think it's really important to remember from what generation we're even dealing with on
That's true.
many levels. Because, you know, raising two kids who I always communicated with them, and we were always open, we have open conversations. But at the same time, there was a period, and sometimes still a period, where I'll say something and they're both going, "You're so judgy." And I'm like, and in
Really?
my opinion, and this is my opinion, some things I don't need to know about other people. I don't want to know that about you.
Yeah, TMI.
But we live in a society, but because of non-judgment, then anything I do, everything I do, I want to share with you. I don't want it.
No, I don't. I agree with
I
you.
don't want it. I don't want it. The same way, if I, as I would be seen an older person to a certain generation of people, if I was to show up places and be like, "Girl, last night," they'd be like,
Exactly.
I think we forget that part in life, that there are things that you make me want to throw up in my mouth, and I don't want to know you like that. I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
know
yeah.
you like that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in your bedroom.
And right. And I tell Nikki, I tell Steph all the time, I swear, I think there is a sign on my forehead that when I'm in public that says to people, "Tell me all your sugar honey iced tea." I
I got the same sign.
I don't know these people. They just, I'll say, "Oh, we're standing in the line to get tea." Yeah. And by the time I've gotten my tea,
we're just having a comment like, "I'm hi, how are you?" Next thing you know, you get to know their whole life story.
Look, I want to be, you know, when that happens to me, I want to go, "Wait, hold on.
I
Here's
know.
my invoice. Here's my invoice. Thank you so much for."
I am a life coach. You got a free session.
Even that though is telling, because the reason why I feel like that happens is because we are starved
Yes.
as a
Right.
society,
Yeah.
as far as communicating with other people. And so I think when that happens, you're dealing with someone who doesn't have other people that they feel like that they can be open and share with. So this strange person who they go, "Okay, you don't know me, you will probably never see me again. I can share this and know that I'm not going to be judged by you." And the floodgates are set free and everything comes out because they, for whatever reason, feel like they don't have someone to be able to communicate and talk to. And I think that's telling.
Yes.
I learned that by being a Lyft driver. I was a Lyft driver for a year and a half, and let me tell you, I'm trying to bring up all that energy from those stories I got. My life as a Lyft driver, because the stories I heard, the things that people told me, because like you said, they're never going to see you again. And then I did have some repeat people, and trust me, the story would continue every time I picked them up, because they would start, because remember I told you that part last time you picked me up, let me finish telling you after, so it goes on. And it is true, people are starved. And they need to know that conversation will not go any further than this Lyft driver. That 9 times out of 10, I will not see this person ever again in life, you know? So, but they come back. I was in the park one day, this boy says to me, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Hi, how are you? You remember you were my Lyft driver?" I ran into people.
That
You never know how you're gonna run into people. I shop at Whole Foods, and I've been shopping this particular was a new one they built closest to me. I've been shopping at Whole Foods since it happened. I opened like 2 years ago, and I know the young man. He used to move the carts. He works at Whole Foods, whatever. Like 4 months ago, he comes to me. He said, "I got a promotion, and I'm not going to be working at this Whole Foods anymore." He said, "I'm moving to another one." I said, "Oh, congratulations." And he said, "I just want to tell you that one night you picked me up when you were driving Lyft when I was going to college." And he said, "You changed my life." Now, I've seen this guy at Whole Foods for, like 2 years. And I just like, "No, hi, Brandon." He would say hi, never spoke, never had a conversation. But when he knew he wasn't going to see me anymore, he tells me this. It was so ironic. And I don't remember picking him up. He said, "I was in college and you picked me up one night." He said, "I was so excited to well, you're gonna pick me up in a Mercedes." He was all excited and everything like that. But it was the weirdest thing. And you never know, how you do help people, your inspiration, people listening to them and things of that nature.
I think you're right, Nikki. I think that's true about what you said about the people like
Start. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true.
We set up in society those people that we can talk to. So on the religious side, it's your preacher or priest. Then you've got bartenders.
Yes.
You've got barbers, the
hairdressers. Yes. Yes.
You know, sometimes your nail tech. And those are the people that we go, okay, I can unleash everything and talk to you. And it's just because I think we have to work on communication outside of dumping it all in the laps of strangers.
Right.
Why are we not talking to our friends and our family?
Correct.
Or the people that are involved with the pain.
Right.
That's who you really need, because you telling whomever and not sharing that with the person. Okay, that's the issue. It's like that saying goes, "In the time of peace, you prepare for war." So it's when you're in the peaceful part of your relationship that you explain to this person, share this person, "I have something I want to share with you about, the painful part of your relationship." Not in the time of war, it's in the time of peace. But, people don't want to share, because by you not saying anything, all of your actions and all of your energies put it there anyway. You're just not saying exactly what it is. So now I got to guess. I can say, like, when I was married, my husband never had to guess, because I was more than happy to tell him, explain the situation to him. And like with me, Nikki, I'm one of those mothers that probably overshare with my children. They know, my history, where I came from. Like, one day my son did say to me, like, "I don't know what to say about that, mommy," but I just wanted them to know who I am. And the only way they're gonna know that is I tell them. It was to the point that, they wouldn't ask my mother, my biological mother, "Well, who's my mother's father? Like, you don't know him, you can't find him for my mother," because they knew and they understood that. So, but it's important. And sometimes it can be a little bit much, And they're at that age, they share some, they don't share some, but I am the sharer with my kids. They don't have to guess, where I'm coming from, what my childhood was like, how I lived, and who's who, like, as far as these people. Yeah, we don't go over there and you ain't spend the night here, because this is how this situation is. I don't trust any of that. We don't, not at all. When my biological mother told me when I was 9, when, because she abandoned me, I lived with my godparents. And as I was getting old, I was 9. And she said to me, "You watch, Uncle Jimmy, because he's a dirty old man." And all I always thought about, "But you put me here with the dirty old man," and knew that he was a dirty old man, obviously, because you told me that. But I'm 9. Okay.
That's
Exactly.
interesting.
It's very interesting.
I think, like I said, I love, the reason why I love talking to other people is because, one, we learn so much about that person We learn so much though about ourselves. And then we learn so much about the relatability of it to the world in itself.
Mhm.
Because I think, Nick, you said that earlier about, we think that we are all so different.
Mhm.
And we really aren't. I don't care what your background is, what your ethnicity is, what your cultural background is, what gender you are, that people are people.
Yes, they
And
are.
the experiences of life are more similar than they are different.
Absolutely.
There were just different faces and different names. And
Mhm.
that's something my grandmother always used to say, was that things do not change. Just the faces and the people change,
That's right.
the places or the names and the time changes, but things don't change. And it's kind of like, it's almost like life is a big replica of everything, if that makes sense.
Mhm. No, it's
It
true.
just keeps changing. The faces change, but the experiences don't. And I feel like, you many times you say to yourself, why is this still happening? Well, it's happening. Why? Because we don't communicate what is wrong with it.
Exactly.
Does
Exactly.
that does that
It's so
does that
true.
make sense? We don't
Makes
we
a
don't
lot of sense, but
communicate
it's true.
enough what's wrong with it. And I always go back to Michelle Obama said that it is an injustice as women that we do to one another when we do not share our experiences, good or bad.
It's true.
And I
I agree
believe
100%.
that. I truly believe that. Women are intuitive, and women are we are nurturers, and we are by nature just that. We, we will take care not all, because some women just aren't, and
Right.
some people aren't. That's just how
Right.
we're
But
created.
95% of women are.
We are nurturers. And
Mhm.
so we will try to help anybody who we see or believe is in need. But where we kind of get into the head bumping comes is that we lose patience with one another,
Mhm.
because you're not doing it the way I told you. You're not doing it the way you said you had a problem. I gave you 3
Solution.
options. I'm not understanding why you're not taking either of those. I'm not understanding why you just can't get yourself together. I don't understand why you just can't. Listen, leave him. Okay.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah,
Not that easy.
I would love to leave him, but I
Mhm.
got 6 kids.
Mhm.
I don't work. I
Exactly.
have no money. Or
Mhm.
better yet, I got 7 kids. I work every day, but he is going to come and find me.
Exactly.
I think we miss the part of the communication because we hear what we want to hear.
You're right about that now.
We hear what we want to hear. We take out the pieces that we're like, yeah, that don't matter. We're like, okay, so here's what you're dealing with. And what we all have to learn, and I've learned this over the last 2 years, we have to learn how to find grace for one another. We have to learn how to find grace for one another.
Yeah, and patience.
Grace.
Yeah, the thing with that is you have to find it within yourself first.
Yes.
You can't give something to someone else that you haven't given to yourself.
Yes, that's good. That's very correct, Nikki. And I think when we find that, we can really help each other, and we can all heal from within. We can help others heal. Let
me ask you guys a question. Are y'all frozen? Y'all frozen on my screen?
We're not frozen. You're not frozen. No.
Am I frozen?
No.
On my screen, y'all are frozen. I don't know why.
No, we can hear you and see you. I see you. You just sat back in your seat, girl.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you guys fine, but y'all frozen.
Okay. No, you're still moving.
Okay, but I want to move too. Now I feel like I feel lonely till I move.
We're still here.
Look, you and I. So, Nikki, I'm going to give you the opportunity for parting words. I want to first say thank you.
I just want to say something really quickly. I
Yes.
want to say something really quickly to what you were talking about your mom.
Yes.
So my biological mother and I are 22 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom who adopted me, we were 42 years apart. And ironically so, my biological mother, she was one because, I have 7 other siblings that she had. But you had to sit in the corner and couldn't speak your mind. And she was like the young mom. Whereas my mom, who was 42 years older than me, wanted me to always be able to express myself.
Mm.
Which is so weird. And then the other thing I wanted to speak to is, you came down to Savannah for my birthday. So I was telling her, she never called me for my birthday. I think I even mentioned it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So finally the other day we spoke and I said, so you never called me for my birthday. I didn't hear from you. I left you a message and all this kind of stuff. And that's why I didn't get the message. Do you know that she still wouldn't wish me happy birthday? Because she said she left me a message. I was like, okay, I'll talk to you later, mommy. Just the things that go on.
We just keep everybody lifted and
Exactly.
give them grace.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
and I think from what Nikki said, that made really good sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really don't know our mothers. We know our mothers as our mothers. We don't know our mothers pre-motherhood. And
especially they're not willing to share.
And
they're not willing
and
to
some
share.
are not willing to share. And I think when we find our place there, when we find if we can, again, giving grace to ourselves. Our mothers first have to learn to give grace to themselves as well. And then we can all kind of be a little bit more relaxed with
understanding
to share. Yeah, and understanding. And I it's always, communication comes across so much better when I understand really where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
And most times we're all communicating without, no, I don't know where you're coming from. I just hear, again, I take the labels, I take the things that you've said, and I wrap them up into what the picture I want it to be. You do the same, and then we lose communication. So I think this is a topic that we will have to revisit again, because I think there's so many facets in this communication thing.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so,
I think it's a topic we talk about forever.
We talked about, we said we were talking about communication, but I don't know, we must have hit on 40 different things today.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree.
Would you agree?
Definitely agree.
Yes.
And I keep saying, I so deeply want to do a mother-daughter thing, but Lord of God, I'm scared. But
no.
I want to.
Yeah.
It's gotta happen. It's really gotta happen.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try to figure out how I'm gonna make it happen. But
well, I know for sure my biological mother wouldn't get on. I know for sure my daughter won't get on. So
well, we're gonna make it happen some way, somehow. Yeah. We're gonna find some brave mother and daughter who are willing to do it. And so we'll see how it goes. So Nikki, I want to say thank you so very much. We so appreciate you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Definitely, we want to have you back again. And I want to give you the opportunity to share your parting words or your closing words or your closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Be open. Be open and share with one another. There's so much comfort and healing and truth and growth that can happen when we're open with one another and we're sharing with each other. And especially now with us being in the situation with the pandemic and, life is short. And it's important for us to be able to be there with and for one another while we're going through this situation where people are stuck at home and people are worrying about jobs, and knowing that you're not alone is extremely important. And the only way that you're going to know that is if you're talking with other people and we're sharing with each other so that we know that we are all in this together. And the only way that we're going to get out of this and get to a better place within our relationships, within our friendships, within our society, is if we are doing it together and sharing with one another to get to
This is
that,
true.
better level.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki.
Definitely.
Nikki, would you
Thank
like
you,
to
Nikki. It was so
also,
nice meeting you.
Nikki, would you also like to share your platforms in which people can communicate with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My handle is the same on all three. That's Nikki Gray Arts. So it's NIKKIGRAYARTS. And I am always open for communication and new friends. And I add you to the friend list. And then my poetry can be found on Spotify for Nikki Gray, and on YouTube at Nikki Gray Arts as well.
Yes. And she is a wordsmith, y'all. Like you gotta check her out. She's a wordsmith. She will make your heart melt and your soul set afire. I just want you all to realize that.
Thank you.
Honey Bunny, Steph, you want to share? You want to give your final words and share how people can get in touch with you?
Yes, and I want to say thank you so much, Nikki. It was just wonderful meeting you, and to all your accomplishments and all the things that's coming to you. There are definitely great things, and I'm glad to definitely know you. And looking forward to having you on the podcast again.
Yes.
And my final thoughts are that thank God we made it on today. We have been just having a really. What'd you say?
Thank y'all for grace.
Exactly. We have been having, it's been like, a couple of crazy months. We had a lot going on, but thank you, and thank you so much, Honey Bunny, for everything, for making everything possible. I appreciate you. I appreciate our audience. I appreciate you, Nikki. Thank you for being our guest today. Everybody continue to have a great weekend.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, I'm a life coach.
You
can find me on my mentor.life, Stephanie Deani Green. I'm a style coach. So you can find me there for those things.
Awesome. Thank you. And so I want to say my final words are just remember to allow yourself grace, allow grace and give grace to others in your life. Find patience and know that when you allow patience, patience will come about with trials and tribulations. That's a true word. That's not my word. That's God's word.
That's God's word. Exactly.
So always remember that. But the only way we can love each other and help each other is to find grace for one another. I want to thank you all so much. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can reach me at idolovecoaching@gmail.com. I do love coaching on Instagram and Facebook, same thing. I do love coaching. So I really appreciate you both. Thank you all so much for the grace that you granted me today. Because it was crazy.
Anytime.
I love you all so
honey.
much. And we thank you all so much for joining us for the autopsy of her healing, evolving resiliency. You guys have a great and blessed weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.